I want to ask you a favor. I want you to hit the pause button. And I want you to think for a moment about the word God, Lord, one and only, divine. What are the names that you call God with? And I actually want to ask, what role does God play in your life? Because I think walking into these two parashiot of this Shabbat, Behar-Behukotai, we really need to answer that question to ourselves when we enter into the slew of mitzvot that are here and who and what we're accountable to. So that's another way of thinking about it. Who and where and how are you accountable? The second pasuk of this parasha is a fascinating pasuk. This parasha begins in the following, and I'm reading in the Hebrew and I'm making up that I know how to translate it into English. And God spoke to Moshe at Har Sinai. So we're at Har Sinai, we're on Mount Sinai. And he says to him, Daber b'nei Yisrael, speak to the children of Israel, V'amart aleim ki tavo'u el ha'aretz, when you come to the land, asher ani noten lachem, that I give you, v'shavta ha'aretz Shabbat laHashem, and the land will rest. V'shavta ha'aretz, Shabbat for God. I want you to imagine for a second. You're an 18-year-old at Chet Egel. You know you're going to make it into Eretz Yisrael. You're there, and now what? You're not gonna run to build your house. You're not gonna run to deal with your fields. V'Shabbat, Shabbat laHashem. V'shavta ha'aretz Shabbat laHashem. First, we rest. The Mechilta, the Midrash, says, what is Shabbat laHashem? We know that God created the world in words. And on Shabbat, no speaking. He paused from creation. God paused from creation. And it appears that there was actually, not only on Yom Kippur, but a tradition of ta'anit dibur on Shabbat, of not speaking on Shabbat, because words create. There's even a wonderful story in this week, like Ba'omen and Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that one Shabbat his mother was speaking, and he looked at her and he said, Ima, Shabta. Ims, it's Shabbat. And she was silent. That memory was all he needed to say. And then the Mechilta says, but because of Darkei Shalom, because of the way we need to be in peace with each other, we were permitted to say Shabbat Shalom. It's unthinkable that a person would walk by another person and not say Shabbat Shalom. And in Behukotai, I want to say, the last parak, the last chapter of Vayikra deals with erech and with value. And when one person wanted to bring an offering to the Mikdash, one way of doing it was based on gender and age. Every person has, quote unquote, a value. But the Gemara, as my Smicha Chavuta loved to bring out, Rabbi Yoni Gordas, La Tuyei Mai, the Gemara begins with, to include who? And I want to bring these two parashiot together with the teaching of the Mea Shiloach. And you know the Ishbitz already. You know how much I love this book, and actually how much I love him and his teachings. And he says, V'im b'chukotai telechu, is the opening verse of the second parasha we read. Im leshon safek. Im is doubt. Because he says, even if a person would observe all of the Shulchan Aruch, still they're in doubt. They're in doubt whether they are aligning themselves with God's will, because God's will is the deepest depths. Amok amok mi'imtzaenu, as the proverb says. So I want to ask us, in these days when everyone is so dug into their opinions and into their ways, how do we walk the streets knowing that it's inconceivable that we don't say hello to each other? And who is it that we need to expand our boundaries to actually include them in those people that it's inconceivable for us to say Shabbat Shalom to, for us to say Shalom to? I want to invite us all to walk this Shabbat with a little bit more of an expansiveness, to say Shabbat Shalom to someone that maybe last Shabbat, it would have been hard for us. But this Shabbat, V'shavta ha'aretz Shabbat laHashem, the silence that allows the pause. Who are we accountable to? Who do we answer to? And how do we expand that concept? Shabbat Shalom.